The podcast, what you are about to hear, is part of our Depp Dive series. The point of this series is to use select films from Johnny Depp's career simply to raise awareness of domestic violence. We've provided resources in the descriptions below, and we encourage that if you or anyone you know may or is currently experiencing domestic violence or abuse, to contact any of these resources. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. And during 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million men and women alike. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence. And these statistics come to us from ncadv.org/statistics. We'll provide more research and stats in the links below. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast.
Beware the tale of Sweeney-Todd.
Welcome to Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast where we celebrate all things spooky and mental health.
I am your co-host, Mark, and why did you do that, Josh?
All right, as you by that introduction, I am Josh, the co-host here, and it's been less than a minute, and I've already managed to embarrass Mark. So yes,
thank you very much for that. We actually have with us Nuggs-the-final-girl to talk about the Johnny Depp-Sweeney-Todd.
Hi.
Hello, welcome aboard. There's no place like London, but there's also no place like Abyss Gazing. So welcome aboard. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You are a Twitch streamer and kind of a multi-platform creator.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I stream on Twitch, and actually just as of today, I started after my Twitch stream, I stream on Facebook gaming as well. And I also make content on Instagram with reels over there, and a smidgen to TikTok.
So
That's
what all is it that you do streaming with for people that may not know?
So I am Nuggs the Final Girl, and when I play video games, I only play horror video games. I'm a horror content creator, so I play every horror game from indie to AAA, and I've always had a policy in my streams that everyone be very kind and accepting, and if we have differences of opinion, that's something that can be taken and discussed outside of the stream on their own time. That my streams are a safe place to have fun, get scared, and hear fart noises. So there's like kind of everything there. But I love horror so much, and I have always wanted to be in horror, like in any capacity. I'm always like, oh, I would love to be the extra in that movie, or like I'd be that dead girl in SVU or something. And so when I was thinking about kind of how I wanted my presence on the internet to be like, I was like thinking about who I am as a person and who I want people to know me as. And I was like, the final girl is absolutely perfect because she is well-rounded. She knows how to like hold her own and fight back, but she's also kind and caring to the people around her, even though she is the final one. She always I shouldn't say always. Most of the time, circumstances abiding, tries to help her friends or whoever she's with. And so I've just adopted the final girl status.
So for those of you guys that don't know, I have had the chance to catch one of your streams. I don't know if Mark has or not. But I've also caught like archive streams, and there's one thing that you do that sets you apart from other streamers when it comes, not just the fact that you're like horror exclusive, but you stand during your entire streams.
I do stand my entire streams.
that just looks exhausting for me because I couldn't imagine like doing that. Can you got to talk about where that came from?
So it just started kind of started on its own. I stood up for a subathon stream, and that was like one of the things to like bring people in was like, I have to stand the whole stream. And then it got a lot of people in my chat asking why I was standing. Do I stand the whole time? And then I just started doing it because of that. And literally no one else is doing it unless they're on like just chatting and they're like, I don't know, dancing or I don't know, walking around or going from hot tub to out of hot tub or whatever. It's not something you see when people actually play video games. The only time I sit is like if the game can't support a controller, which I have a good PC, so like that's how I game. I don't have any consoles. But to answer your question, it sets me apart. It makes people ask questions, and I'm very animated. So standing makes it so everyone can actually see how bonkers I can be, I guess.
So with horror video games, what are your feelings on the recent kind of rumors coming out that they're remaking Silent Hill?
I am excited for an updated version or a updated continuation, but I am hella skeptical of how it's actually going to turn out, because I think no matter what, it's not going to live up to our expectations, because Silent Hill is almost the most popular besides Resident Evil like horror game across the board.
It was direct. There was no bones about it when it came out originally for the PS1. Konami just straight up said this is competition for Resident Evil, and they succeeded, if not surpassed. It's just Resident Evil was the more commercially successful, and Silent Hill has always been like my favorite horror franchise ever. So I had to ask. I had to get it out there.
No, ask away. I am an open book because I've played really bad indie, like they definitely needed some time, horror games on stream. But I've played. I got my start, I should say, playing Resident Evil. But Silent Hill is I am a stan for Pyramid Head, so I'm one of those people.
Mark and I know. No, Mark and I know a little bit about Silent Hill. I'm not a video game guy by any means, but I was gonna say Mark and I know a thing or two about indie filmmaking and it kind of not being the greatest
at times. But then you get companies like there's a company a few months ago put out a game, Tormented Souls.
I love that game.
I just downloaded it, and from what I understand, it's like a complete nod to old school Resident Evil and old school Silent Hill.
100%. It does. The puzzles are puzzles, so it's hard, and there's a lot of backtracking. So I warn you with that. It does get frustrating sometimes, but it is so awesome to play because it is you feel like you're a kid again when you play it, or a young adult. I don't know when everyone plays those games.
But my understanding is that the controls are the old tank style controls that they used to have as well. So it's like 100% 90s horror video games.
Yep, fixed camera, tank controls. I am not good at them. I actually hate tank controls especially because Code Veronica, or Resident Evil Code Veronica, for those who don't know, is one of my favorite Resident Evils, but I can't play it more than like a couple times because I get so frustrated.
So if you don't know, Josh, tank controls, one joystick moves like forward and backwards, and the other one rotates the character. And it acts almost like you're driving and steering a tank.
Nope. Don't need that.
It's very, my brain can't compute because I also started gaming really late into my life. I didn't start gaming until I was like well into like my mid 20s. So I'm experiencing a lot of these games for the first time as an adult, and coming from updated controls to something I've never even experienced before, such as tank controls. I was like, what? My brain, it doesn't make sense. But it makes for good entertainment. So
I actually have been gaming since the Intellivision in the early 80s.
Yeah.
The control pad was a disc with a number pad on top of it, and you had an insert that slid in over the numbers to tell you what the different buttons did.
That's so crazy.
It was one of the first home consoles with cartridges.
Nice. Like I played the Atari, and like I obviously played like what was it? SX or that snowboarding one, and the Tony Hawk and Mario and all that, but I was never like really big into gaming until my late 20s.
Yeah, there's not many consoles I haven't touched at this point.
I am curious, like out of like all of like, what was the game that kind of like changed it for you?
Diablo 3.
Like, get you.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
Diablo 3 was the first game that I actually sat down and beat all the way through and had a good time. I've had very interesting experiences with people trying to get me to play video games, like when I was younger. And I don't know if maybe I was slow back then or something, but they got very frustrated with me. So I had a very negative, opinion of video games for a little bit. Well, just a smidge. But then I actually sat down, took the time to like actually learn. I used to be terrible at first person shooters, and now I'm like, okay, like I'm pretty good. I can hold my own. Like I love to play Elden Ring and stuff like that, but
I just beat Elden Ring.
I still haven't beaten it. I'm like a bajillion hours in, and
240 hours.
I think I'm at like 130 or something.
I think I was level like 170 when I finally beat it.
Holy cow.
Yeah. But then again, I'm one of those people that'll do like all the little side quests and explore every little nook and cranny and cave, and yeah. So yeah, that was a couple months of work.
And then some. I'm actually
These are reasons I don't game. I'm sorry.
Why? It's so much fun. As someone who was a naysayer.
I'm just slowly like starting to get back into like actually like reading books.
Yeah, that's so good.
Legitimate books, and I have TikTok to thank for that. So maybe one day gaming will get me back into it.
Yeah, it's I grew up with it. It's been part of my life since I was a kid. I'm gonna be 50 walking in to buy a PlayStation 6 for me.
Yep. Is that your console of choice?
So, okay. I have had every iteration of the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I have had an Xbox. I've had a 360.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in the Series X because the Xbox One had nothing I was interested in that I couldn't play on my PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So I never bothered. But the Series X actually has some exclusives. Starfield, Scorn, and a couple others they've been advertising here recently that I may get a Series X.
Scorn looks really good.
Scorn is a first-person shooter that looks like it was designed by H.R. Geiger.
It looks so good.
Still not selling me on it.
Oh,
I heard a rumor in my chat today, actually, that Scorn is a first-person shooter without being a first-person shooter. And I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things about the game, and it's not making sense to anybody. It just looks fantastic.
Oh, it's phenomenally gorgeous. Just absolutely. I want to live in that terrible world.
So yeah, I've had a lot of consoles. I prefer PlayStation because of the exclusives over Microsoft or over the Xbox, but I might get a Series X here, probably when Starfield comes out or shortly thereafter.
Well, if you have a PC, you can get Xbox Game Pass for your PC, and then you don't have to get the console, and you can just play on your PC.
I don't have room to set up a desktop PC, and I can't deal with a keyboard and mouse outside of work.
I get that.
They make controllers you can actually plug into your USB, so you can also
Yeah.
it into it.
But
That's what I do.
It runs into the original issue of I have nowhere to put a gaming PC.
That's
I
right.
have
Let
a
me
pink
pull
one. Don't ask me why.
because pink can be a good color.
I can only play this on Wednesdays, though. If you know, you know. Only the real ones know.
Why am I confused on this one?
Because on Wednesdays we wear pink, Mark.
Exactly.
Oh God!
On Wednesdays we wear pink.
Is this back to your Mean Girls fetish?
Yes.
Listen, I had a whole podcast to talk about Mean Girls, and you guys check the links in the descriptions below. Go ahead and listen to go ahead, check out Nuggs-the-final-girl on Twitch and all of our social medias. But Mark, you spent the entire last episode trying to convince me to give The Abyss a better viewing. And now the shoes have flipped, because now I get to convince you to give Sweeney-Todd a better view.
Which you can't do simply because I've seen it multiple times because I want to like it for what it is. But I friggin' hate musicals. There is no reason for people to be singing their dialogue. The only musical I like and enjoy is Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and that is because the music is part of the performances and they're not singing their conversations to each other.
What about Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Not a fan.
Bro.
So me and some friends did some like quote unquote air quote research. It seems to be that the people that love Hedwig either don't like or just about Rocky Horror, and vice versa. For the most part.
It seems like a good social media poll. So tweet us at Victims and Villains. Let us know where you stand.
Every time we ask somebody, which one do you like? They're like, oh, we like this one. What do you think about the other one? Yeah, it's okay.
Well, call me Switzerland because I like both.
I know Rocky Horror had its merits and contributions, but I found Hedwig to be much more entertaining of an experience, and I really wanted to see Neil Patrick Harris play Hedwig on Broadway, but I never got to see it. And Ali Sheedy was the only female to ever play Hedwig on stage. And Taye Diggs played Hedwig at one point.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah, it started off as an off-Broadway play in a kind of sketchy by the hour hotel that used to be a hotel that some of the Titanic survivors went to.
Really?
And that is where it started for its first performances, because Broadway went, you guys are crazy. This is never going anywhere. And it blew up so huge in this kind of scary neighborhood hotel that Broadway was like, okay, we screwed up. Y'all can come join us. Yep.
But to your points, there is probably arguably not one musical that is more iconic than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I would stand by that. I don't know a single person that doesn't know about that. And I have a varying degree of people in my life that are in very different like subgroups. But even the most conservative of my friends know about Rocky Horror.
Yeah, Rocky Horror was is definitely the more popular of the two. More people know about it than they do Hedwig.
But well, I mean, Rocky Horror has the midnight showings and People bring props and act it out in front of the screen, and
yeah. What are you gonna do, man? It's iconic. But it's also been around for double the amount of time as Hedwig. So
and then we have what we're talking about now, Sweeney Todd, a musical about a guy coming back for revenge and murdering people as a
barber.
As Barber,
Barber. But I mean, to be fair, like he was also a barber before everything happened, so it's not like he's coming back as like something new. It's not like he was like a tomato farmer. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna come back as a barber.
He wasn't like a fisherman or something.
Yeah. So everyone's already kind of like heard Mark's take on this. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's one of both Depp and Burton's kind of better collaborations. I feel like it's definitely feels like early collaboration, like Edward Scissorhands era. But being our guest, where do you stand on Sweeney Todd?
Again, I'm kind of in the middle. I really like.
This is going to be interesting.
I really like certain aspects of the movie, and I am a huge. You lucked out. You got a huge musical fan here. So I love musicals. Side note, Hello Dolly is my favorite, but that's neither here nor there. But I love the fact that horror and musicals meshed, especially not as so indie, I guess, as Rocky Horror or anything else. But there, as a movie, it has its flaws. So I enjoy the movie. I can watch it a few times a year, but I'm not like every night.
I haven't seen this movie in probably like over 10 years. This was the first viewing that I did. And like, actually, when we were putting together the Depp Dive series, Mark and I were like talking about like movies we could do that were like horror adjacent or like horror that was in his filmography. And I forgot totally about Sweeney Todd. And I was like going through his IMDb one day and I was just like, dude. Like Sweeney Todd.
That's the jam.
And I'm over here face palming. I have watched it, like I said, multiple times over the years because it is a horror story, like it is kind of, but it's a musical. And it's like, there's no reason I shouldn't like this, but I don't because there's too much singing, but there's cannibal meat pies and
gore, and it's dark and moody, and why wouldn't we? And it's Johnny Depp,
and they're singing. Why do they have to sing? If they remade it, removed the singing, and just made it a movie, it'd be freaking awesome. But they'll never do that. So
you can do it. That'll be Mark, your first movie.
Mark, you want to make it happen, man?
Yeah, because I know how to do that.
we look, man. I know people that work in the DIY horror scene. We can call it abyss gazing, the horror musical.
Exactly.
The horror non-musical.
Motion picture events of the summer.
That's my issue with it. I've never been able to get into a movie that was a musical like that. It's nonsense to me, and it bores me to tears, even though I really wanted to like it.
That's fair. I think with this movie too, like there's so much that I'd forgotten about it, and I actually forgot like how like graphic this movie is.
Yes.
For some of the deaths, like the deaths of I think it's Sacha Baron Cohen, like just like splits his like neck like just wide open, and like the body just like comes into it. It's like
after hammering him in the head with a scalding hot kettle.
Not only that, he gets shoved in a box.
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm,
or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text help to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please stay with us. Yeah. Oh, he gets shoved in a box and then gets his throat ripped.
And then gets it ripped.
Yeah.
So his hand is smushed with the box and his little fingers sticking out, twitching. And he's got to try and hide it so no one sees it. And like,
or when they dump the bodies to the basement from the barber chair and it shows them sliding head first like limp corpses.
Yeah, what's his face? He was in Harry Potter. That guy.
Yeah.
When the kid's in the basement and you see the slit throat and he just clunks on the head and
the head explodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for that kind of movie and play and stuff, but it's the singing. The singing is what kills it for me.
What if it was like a different style of singing? What if we made an all metal version?
I mean, I have seen Repo, a genetic opera.
That's good.
And I can almost, but again, it goes back to the singing. And even though I believe it's the dude from Ogre did the music for that movie, and it's all like industrial, it was still just talk to each other. Stop singing, for Christ's sake. It's the singing.
I mean, I sing to people that I interact with.
I'm pretty sure you've made like this like Nugs mission now. Like moving forward, she's just gonna like shoot you text messages and she's gonna be like, "This is the musical we need to check out. This is it. I can feel it.
This is the one." I'm just going to send you. I'm going to flood your inbox with musicals that I think you should check out. Singing in the Rain is a good one because they don't sing when it's like Hedwig. They don't necessarily sing when they're just interacting. There are like events that happen.
I think that's why I liked Hedwig, though, is that it was his performances.
So it's like going to a show.
Yeah.
Seeing cats. No.
And the best song in the movie was Midnight Radio, the tribute to Bowie. But still, anyways, I've never been able to get into musicals.
I was going to say,
if I want to.
Cats, that's a very good reference.
Yeah, Cats is probably the one that I would tell you. Like, I'm a guy that would tell you never to do drugs, and Cats I feel like would be enhanced with drugs.
It's you have to watch it while on drugs. That's like the lay of the law. If you don't, you're not doing it right.
I vaguely remember as a kid going to a local performance of Cats on a school field trip. Yeah, it's been all downhill from there.
That would put a bad taste in my mouth.
I'm sorry.
I went to I took my wife to go see Wicked because she loved it and wanted to see it, and I did it for her.
You're so nice.
But it was, oh God, was that painful?
Is that how we are going to torture you now? We now know how to successfully torture you. We just need to play musicals on reruns over and over, and we're going to torture you while singing.
I mean,
all right, I'm gonna snip off your pinky toe.
I will find the lowest rated musical on Rotten Tomatoes and keep it in my back pocket for that torture.
Yes. I
Why you
called
gotta-
tips.
In other,
Why you gotta
I'm
be
just
this
kidding.
way?
I'm just kidding.
Why you gotta be this way?
because this movie made me very, very sad. I don't know if you guys know this or not. This has nothing to do with horror, but my second favorite genre is biopics. And obviously, we all know Queen had a biopic years ago called Bohemian Rhapsody. Years before that was ever coming into the final form that we know it now as, Sacha Baron Cohen was actually supposed to play Freddie Mercury. And this movie made me realize how much of a piss poor decision it was to move on to someone else. Not saying that Romney Malik did a terrible job, but like they were royally robbed of Sacha Baron Cohen.
I am just learning this information for the first time.
I heard that originally when they were talking about doing Bohemian Rhapsody, and my first reaction was, "Dear God, make it not happen." And I got my wish.
But Sacha Baron Cohen is good in Sweeney Todd, so he could. Oh my God! And the look. Okay, I'm a new Sacha Baron Cohen stan for Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm just gonna deep fake his face.
Yeah, he was actually supposed to, like, the reason why I didn't move forward was because he actually wanted to portray an honest portrayal of Mercury, who was, and the height of their fame was into drugs. He was basically going to orgies and, was exploring his sexuality. And the remaining members of Queen were like, we don't think that's kind of the right way to do it. And so they essentially scrubbed that version, and we got what we got now, which is a very sanitized and condensed look at Mercury's infamy.
Well, even the way they portrayed them meeting was incorrect historically. He knew them already, and I believe I read one place that some of them were roommate. That Freddie Mercury was actually roommates with like one or two of them or something before he joined them and helped to create Queen. So it's my understanding is that it was Brian May and one of the others wanted to kind of clean up the story and make it a little more friendly, I guess.
A little more plastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a fantastic movie, and it's not a musical.
Is it though?
Yeah. I would classify it as musical, but anyways, that's because it's about a musician.
The one thing that got me with it, and this is really the only thing that really pissed me off, was that they took all the time to build up to their performance at Wimbledon for
Live Aid.
For Live Aid, and they cut their 22-minute set down to like, was it 15 minutes or something for the movie? At that runtime, why not do the whole performance?
It does feel weird that you wouldn't have like 7 minutes of it, because I mean, that's like one of the most iconic rock performances of all time.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it opening weekend, and there were like elderly people in the theater, and they were like singing and dancing and clapping like they were at a concert the whole movie. And we could hear some of them talking. It was like, yeah, I was right there in that crowd. And it was like, oh my God.
That's cool.
It's like, I am friggin' jealous.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
But Sweeney-Todd.
Circle back.
Not only is this like a really brutal film, the scene opens up on this like really like muted boat kind of coming into this port, and it's just like a really just a really hopeless world, because you look and you see just how gray and dab this is. It feels like it's almost kind of Mark, no comments, but I'm gonna say this looks like a Zack Snyder movie.
Yep. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. When I was watching it, I took notes when I rewatched it like a couple of days ago. And the opening credits, before we even get to that boat scene, I thought was like the perfect example, not the perfect, a great example of like show, don't tell in a movie, because we already knew what type of movie we were going to be in for, because it was already showing like blood and pies and all kinds of stuff. But we also saw character relations in the credits before the movie even starts. So we knew already going into it who was kind of either related or had something to do with another character. And then when it goes into that, you're like, this is exactly the movie that I was expecting per these opening credits.
Well, with the way it's shot in the color scheme of the majority of the movie, the only time it's really bright and sunny is when they show the scene where he's with his wife and daughter from earlier events. That's the only time there's a lot of color in the movie.
I have always saw that as like a really good example of like depression, because you're in gray yuck. You're still living your life. Do you like it? No, but you're there. But when you remember good memories, or you have these little snippets of time in your life that are good, it does feel like it's in color. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And Mark, there's one other scene where that like the light kind of shines through, and it's in, I want to say it's probably in the second act, but Helena Bonham Carter's characters like singing about like how her and Cohen's like lad would essentially like become like this like family, and you kind of see that like he's always kind of like reaching towards that. And I think Nugs, it is such a beautiful example of depression, well spoken, because like I when I went through like my depression, even on like days that like I still get depressed and still feel those like mood swings, like there are moments that like I'm constantly coming back to that are making that day kind of seem a little bit less depressive, or say, all right, like let's flip the perspective. Instead of focusing on the forest, let's focus on the tree. Let's focus on how the bark of this tree breaks down. Like, is there like, let's start focusing on kind of like almost like a molecular level, and the juxtaposition that Burton creates here between these like really muted colors and these like bright memories and like alternate / hopeful futures. Like, I mean, it speaks volumes to like the state of Sweeney's mental health throughout the course of this film.
Well, part of that with that scene, why you see them looking like they're still part of the Addams family in that bright surrounding, is the fact that that was her vision, not his. He didn't really give a crap. She was just his help in the whole process. Mm-hmm. She was obsessed with him, falling in love with him, but he wasn't having it. He was obsessed with getting to the judge to get revenge about his wife and daughter. So you end up seeing her vision of what could be, and her only vision of him is him in his current state.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read some of the lyrics that like kind of like our introduction to it, because I'm not going to sing again. I'm pretty sure Mark would quit this podcast if I did. and this kind of like gives you like the layout of like the world that you're going to get ready to step into, because it's also worth mentioning that this is a world where like they hang children. Like there's a scene where Alan Rickman sentences probably like a 6 or 7-year-old to be hung. And like I'd forgotten that part existed, and like so when the camera like shows him, I was just like, that's dark even for a guy that doesn't like kids. There's a hole in the world like a great black pit, and the vermin of the world inhabit it, and its morals aren't worth what a pig could spit. And it goes by the name of London. At the top of the hole sits a privileged few, making a mock of the vermin of the lower zoo, turning beauty into filth and greed. And that kind of spectacularly sets the stage for not only the emotional journey that you're going to go through, but the emotional turmoil of this world, and kind of like how the hierarchy of this world exists.
Well, I mean, Victorian London wasn't exactly the greatest place on earth. They were dumping chamber pots out the window into the street. It's part of why it's common courtesy and gentlemanly for the guy to walk on the curbside of the sidewalk, so the women didn't get hit with flying poo out of a window.
Wait, on the curbside?
Yes, they threw it out the window into the street.
Well, I always
thought the men would stand on the outside while the women stood close to the building. So if somebody flung a chamber pot, it would hit the dude and not the woman.
Okay. For some reason, I thought in my brain, I switched the male and female. I was like, wait, how?
Yeah.
But yeah, that, and when carts would go by, they would stand on the outside so that the women and children wouldn't get hit, and they wouldn't get like mud and shit.
Yep. So it was dirty. It was diseased. You had, what was it, late 1800s, mid 1800s, you had Jack the Ripper. Whitechapel, that area wasn't exactly a safe area. You had the roving bands of orphan kids that were like robbing people. It wasn't exactly a good place.
It's rough, that's to say the least.
Yeah.
It's because there's no place like London.
Exactly. No place like London.
God.
We're just going to sing to you this entire chat.
And y'all are probably wondering, y'all are probably wondering why I'm fidgeting with like black lights and all kinds of stuff.
Go away. Like do it up. Do it up. I don't mean go away. Oh my gosh, that came out totally wrong. I meant like do what you got to do to suffer through this.
I honestly thought that was like you like telling me you wanted me to like start singing to you, you know,
setting the
make
mood.
it like a rock.
No, I'm kind of ADD tonight for some reason, and I keep looking over and seeing my bottle of UV resin and my UV flashlight, and it's like, I wonder what I could. I am taping a podcast right now, so
that's okay. I'm ADD all the time, so you're in good company here.
How would you guys like to help us get mental health resources into schools, conventions, and other events? Well, now you can. Simply go to patreon.com/victims and villains for as little as $1 a month. You guys can help us get mental health resources into current and upcoming generations, educate and break down stigma surrounding mental health, suicide, and depression. And you get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And you guys can tell us which Nicolas Cage movie you want us to cover, and we'll do it. All it takes to get started is to go to patreon.com/victims and villains, or simply click the link in the episode description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this episode. Pick your tier and get started today. Yes, it's that simple. So quickly select the tier that you want and help us get hope into the hands of the depressed and the suicidal today.
I will reel the conversation back in for you then.
Yes.
And there's one of the things that, you kind of early on this very early interaction. I don't actually remember the actor's name. So for the sake of his character's name, his name's Anthony, but he also goes by Vecna. If you know, you know. But he says, he's kind of like they're having this exchange and they're talking about how, like he's like Anthony's like really hopeful and he has this like very optimistic view of life, and Sweeney's is like a essential thing is like, life's been kind to you, but you will learn, and like that you see it more explored throughout the course of this, but here you have a guy that is like, very single focused. Like it was brought up earlier how like that vision isn't necessarily of like his hopeful future, but of Carter's character's future and kind of like her falling in love, where Johnny is essentially like very singular focus throughout the entire course of this film, to where like he just wants revenge. He wants to basically make the people that made him suffer and also like take his daughter back, essentially.
Well, it's story wise like one step shy of being a Christopher Nolan movie. So all of his movies are about obsession.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Sweeney-Todd is. It's about him being obsessed with getting revenge. And yeah, okay.
You're not wrong, but also from like a mental health perspective, that's not a healthy place to be. Whether that obsession is something that's not killing people, but also at the same time, like, I mean, he's a very bitter, very weary soul. And, we stress on here about the importance of community. And Nugs, when you originally were talking about your channel, like, it's, be courteous, basically, leave politics, everything outside. Because in here, like, we're a community that is a safe place for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the danger of Sweeney-Todd feels like a cautionary tale because of it demonstrates the foul essential stench that you can have when it comes to experiencing something like vengeance and bitterness and unforgiveness.
That was a good call. A callback, because in the movie they talk about the stench from the dead bodies being baked. I appreciated that.
Oh, I didn't even get that. Fair enough. Okay.
That's why I'm here. But yeah, no, I totally agree. This definitely is a cautionary tale, and it's a great juxtaposition of age and experience, because Johnny Depp's character, he's older, obviously. He's lived a life. A lot of bad things have happened. And then you have this younger guy who's like literally fresh off the boat. And he's like, I want to experience the world. I want love. I want money. I want all this stuff. Like, can't be that bad. Like, anywhere's better than where I have been. And it's nice to see. I shouldn't say it's nice. It's interesting to see how everyone evolves towards the end of the movie.
But did Todd really evolve? He's just as much who he was at the beginning as he is at the end.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I would vote that it's a cautionary tale, because not only does he end up killing his daughter, he ends up killing his wife, who up to that point is believed to be dead. And, when you have such a one-track mind or a vision of what you need to do, I think that's the importance of taking care of your mental health, because if this,
sorry,
the ending was his wife.
Yeah, the ending was his wife. I thought his daughter got away. And somebody came in.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember now. I just watched.
He ends up stabbing her nonetheless.
Hurting her nonetheless. There was
exactly.
There was
blood and violence was shed. But like going back to like the things of like depression and anxiety, like leaving those things untreated is a really bad place for you, because I mean it takes you into some truly terrible places, mentally speaking. And I think if your mental health goes unchecked, whether it's depression or anxiety or self-harm, I mean, you eventually will start to harm not only yourself, but also those around you.
Yeah, it's a really good example of not putting yourself in check and what can happen, because putting yourself in check is not easy. Calling yourself out is one of the hardest things you could ever possibly do, because you can never obviously be completely objective because you are yourself. But I do like that, the fact that it wasn't a good arc per se for him. I like that it showed that he didn't recover. I mean, as a character, I feel really bad. I wish he like was a better person, but for the sake of the movie, it is, as a horror fan, it is nice to have a movie that doesn't always end on like a super nice note. But in the sense of mental health, that should be a, hey, warning, this is something that can happen IRL.
Well, I think it's also how you look at the end of the movie.
That too.
If you look at it kind of like a weirdo, he's now spending eternity with his wife.
Yeah.
But is that really what you like want? Because you can't like come in and be like a dick the entire 2 hours and then be like, you know what? Here it goes.
Bye-bye.
I mean, I've had those times where I've been pulled out of offices for like people's safety almost, where you end up in those situations where people push and push and push and you finally snap, and it's need to step away from it. He never stepped away. He never really kind of tried to move on or step away from it and deal. He just kind of dwelled on it. And it's an example. It's more of an example of what happens, what dwelling on something major can cause.
Well, it's also go.
Go ahead.
Are you sure? I don't want to cut you off. I was going to say it's also a really good example as like a comparison to today, I say very loosely, of people who are not financially wealthy, not having all the resources or the ability to get help, if we're speaking of mental stability. Not that they had that really back then, but money definitely plays a big role in a lot of people, especially nowadays, mental health. And it obviously did back then because they're people. And I know that movie doesn't touch on the like economic disposition, I don't know, one of those words, of everyone around, but like they weren't bad off. But I mean, at the beginning of the movie, Helen Bonham Carter's character, she's like, these are disgusting. I'm so glad just one person is going to buy this because that's all I need.
The worst pies in London. Yeah, to that point, that's one of the things that, we've tried to, as an organization, been trying to constantly raise awareness about is, that there are resources out there that are, most insurances will take, but also at the same time, like a lot of people are intimidated because of insurance and money. Yep. And I don't want to deteriorate. That's not the right word. I don't want to deter. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Mark. I don't want to deter anyone away from using any of the resources. And if you go to victimsandvillains.net/hope, there are plenty of resources there for you, as well as there are resources in the descriptions below wherever you guys are listening to this episode. And we're not sponsored by them, but hopefully they'll hear this one day and decide to sponsor us. BetterHelp has been a resource that I've been constantly telling people about, where it's affordable. You constantly have, it's my understanding that you have access to a therapist 24/7. Like, you can hop around. It's really easy to switch if you switch insurance, or your therapist, like you and your therapist don't click, whatever that help is. But that's a resource that I would definitely highly suggest checking out as well.
Yeah, we have access through our work. If you decide to get insurance, we also have access to a toll-free mental health line for therapists and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was working in machining, they had if you didn't want to talk to someone, you could text them and get everything out as much as you can through text. And so if people aren't comfortable physically speaking with someone, or even over the phone, because I get anxiety when I call someone for an appointment, you can text to also get help.
Yeah, the texting too has been like such a revolutionary thing as well. And
yes and no.
Well, what I'll say also too is, like, to Nug's point, is that most of the services that are out there that offer text-based, they don't actually have a number you can text. You can log on to their server and they have a 24-hour text line.
Yeah.
Well, texting has its good points, but my issue with texting as a whole is that there's a lot of things you lose in a text that don't come through.
Absolutely.
So that's what I mean by yes and no, is there's a lot lost in translation from person to print.
It's also very hard to read people's tone and voice.
Yes.
Of how they're responding, and I can confirm that, because Mark is a very hard person to decipher sometimes.
I've already told you 9 out of 10 times I'm probably joking. Probably.
Probably.
If it's not
60% of the time, he's probably 100% of the time joking.
Or I'm being sarcastic, one or the other.
Yeah, it's something I've grown to know about you, so it is what it is.
But you also know at this point to just ask, is this what you mean or not? And I'm like, yes, I was being a dumbass.
But on that note, and like also on something that you said earlier about there like being accountability, and like no one to like really call out the Sweeney-Todd character, kind of keep him in check, like that's crucial. Like one of the things that like I need as a person that is constantly doing this type of work is I need people that are holding me accountable as far as like my mental health and like the standards that I uphold. And so like that comes in the form of like my wife, Dallas Mora, Ron Webster, LJ Lowry, people, even also Mark, and some of our board members as well, Alan Cram, Josh Howell, someone's just Cam Smith, so on and so forth. And like a lot of people that are constantly holding me accountable in all aspects of my life. And it's been such a huge like relief off my shoulders when it comes to mental health, because like these are people that like I can truly count on, that say like, hey, like I'm not having a good day today. I need someone to talk to, and I need someone to vent to. And that has kind of, I would say, really solidified Mark and I's relationship from just being strictly professional to like being a legitimate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a tendency to view it as I have to be accountable to myself, because I can't count on other people to hold me accountable always. So I'm one of the first to admit, hey, yeah, I screwed up, or I shouldn't have done this. There's been times after podcasts, I'll text him, like, dude, I think I screwed up by saying this. He's like, no, you're fine. It also lends to the fact of that kind of person's easier to kind of believe what they're saying when they say something's happening.
Yes.
because they're one of the first to also admit that, hey, I screwed something up. I did this wrong. So where he has a lot of people, and he'll call me out on my bullshit every now and again too.
Oh yeah.
Which, hey, whatever. But I find it more useful with me and knowing how I am to hold myself accountable for things and just rethink things through. If something didn't go the way it was supposed to, is it something I did? Is it a decision I made or something I said that was misunderstood?
See, I need people to tell me because I am apparently really dumb because I'm like, oh, why was that bad? I mean, obviously I know right from wrong. And like,
Yeah.
just sometimes the social cues, I'm a little slow too. So I'm glad that I have like a support system, I guess, of people that are like, excuse me, miss, what was that about? And I'm like, oh, that wasn't okay. Okay.
Yeah. Also, Mark, knowing your wife, I guarantee she calls you out on a bunch of stuff. Kate doesn't seem like someone that like tolerates that. So
yeah, she's like, no, it's not. That's not how it happened. It's like, that's how I remembered it, but that's not how it happened. So yeah, I'm not easy to deal with. So she's put up with me for 12 years, and I'm surprised I haven't woke up with a pillow over my face. So,
congrats.
So yeah. Yeah.
But I think that there is a, like, in all seriousness, like there is a important value on not only holding yourself accountable to standards, but also having people in your life that are going to keep you accountable to those standards. So there's you need both sides of what we're talking about here and what Mark is specifically addressing. All right. I want to ask this because I know Mark doesn't really care, but what is everyone's favorite song in this movie?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh gosh, I need to look up what the name was now. I don't.
The end credits.
I knew you were going to say that. I had a feeling. No, I really like when we first meet Sacha Baron Cohen, they have their little song of who's going to do it better or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. The Pirelli elixir. He can do it better.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I love it.
I have had I Feel You, Joanna stuck in my head for. Ooh. It's like such a freaking catchy song. That Joanna is really good. Pirelli's Miracle Elixir is really good.
He like knows all the song names in the order that they're in the movie.
I pulled he's got a list.
He's prepared.
Professional.
I try to be.
I would. So
look, I take notes in Mark and I's professional relationship. I don't know if he does, but I definitely do. So, but I'm gonna go with Joanna because the song has been freaking stuck in my head for so long.
It is an earworm. Like it's now in my head. So I thank you for that. It's now stuck in my head. I will probably fall asleep to that song now.
I've had a 1970s Vietnam song stuck in my head. So, yeah. Oh. Is it American Buffalo? What's that sound?
Oh, yep.
That song will get you.
That will. Now I have them mashed together.
You're welcome.
I think that's going to do it for us on this episode of Abyss Gazing. Mark, where can people find you online?
I'm just doing my painting like always at Titanium Juggernaut Painting on Instagram.
Miss Nuggs, where can we find you online?
You can find me on almost every single social media platform under nuggs-the-final-girl. I mostly right now interact with my Instagram and my Twitch, but I'm branching out, as it were. So you can check me there.
All of which you guys can find links for in the descriptions below, as well as any and all domestic abuse resources that we have in there as well, because that's the point of the series for Dep Dive, is to bring awareness to that. You guys can follow me. I am on Letterboxd at Captain Nostalgia. I'm also on TikTok at Gent GENT Ghostface, and follow our parent company Victims and Villains. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you guys get your podcast from. And you guys can also support us monthly at patreon.com, or click the GoFundMe link in the descriptions below, where you guys can do a one-time donation and donate to our 2023 vision for travel and whatnot. So until next time, remember that the longer that you gaze into the abyss, the more the abyss gazes back into you. I need you, Joanna.